What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of That Great Podcast. Today, we have Christina Specos. She is a former collegiate strength and conditioning coach, IFBB Pro, and performance coach. I'm super excited about this one. I always love picking the brains of some of these top performers. So, Christina, welcome. Great to
Thank
have
you
you
so
on.
much for having me.
Of course, of course. So let's kick it off. Tell us a little bit about your background. I really want to dig into the IFBB Pro and how that all came to be. So walk us through it. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I've been in strength and conditioning and human performance and optimization for over 25 years now. I was a associate director of sports performance at Purdue University,
Nice.
which basically means not only did I help run the department and grow the internship program and on things like that, but I was the strength and conditioning coach for basketball, volleyball, a little bit of football, soccer, golf, tennis,
Wow.
all. Yeah. And so I was responsible for the year-round programming. So when I look at what I do now for the general public or people that I work with that are high performers, some of them are former athletes or some of them just have career and physical demands. I have a client that does both to a
Yeah.
very high level, CEO and plays a lot of paddle and is at the forefront of recovery. It's cool to take the concepts of high performance and see how it actually applies to real life
Right.
and real people, not just high performing athletes.
Yeah, for sure. And so tell me a little bit about kind of your experience as an athlete yourself during that time and kind of what helped you transition into what you're doing now and how it kind of fed, like you're saying, there's that crossover.
Yeah, I have this obsession with trying to understand why some people do it and some people don't, why some people get results and some people don't. And so there's this discipline and this grit that's part of it.
Mm,
And when I say when I became an adult athlete, because, playing tennis as a kid, it sets the foundation. But
sure.
when I decided to go into bodybuilding in 2016 at the age of 36, I was still a strength coach. And what it did for me was it put me in the mindset of goal achievement again, not
Mm,
just career goal achievement, but something physical.
yeah.
And then when I got to the physical level where I was able to run circles around D1 athletes that I was working with, it was a really cool mindset shift for me because, they're on the basketball court, they're on the volleyball court, and they're trying to make it to the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16 and the Final Four and all these things.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, I'm doing all this for like a plastic trophy. So at the end of the day, when I named my new program, the Lifestyle Standard, it was something that for me really outlined what it takes that separates those who achieve and those who don't.
Right.
It's literally the standard that you set for yourself
Yeah.
and how you go about staying committed to it. And that's what really made me feel like, okay, as an athlete myself, I get it now.
Yeah.
Not just as a high school tennis player, but
Right.
as an adult who I don't have to do this for a scholarship incentive. I don't
Mm.
have to do this because I pay to do this.
Yeah. Right.
It's an expensive sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I realized it's a first world problem to put yourself in a situation to torture yourself as some people look at it. But if it's your lifestyle, it's not weird to me.
Right. It's just what you do.
Like imagine if somebody went up to Michael Jordan and said, "Oh my gosh, you're at 4 a.m., shooting in the gym." Well, yeah, there's millions of dollars on the line and brand deals and all this stuff. And if I'm in the gym at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., it's because I have to get it in because it's so important to me.
Mm.
And I don't want to wait till later in the day.
Right.
But there's no big paycheck in the end.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, for me, maybe the benefit is I'm the billboard for my company.
Mm.
So I have to set the tone.
And would you say this was something that you've kind of always had and got like kind of reinvigorated and reawakened, or was this something that you kind of really developed as you went through the IFBB experience?
I love that question because I think it's both.
Mm.
When I was raised, it was very predictable academic, right? The whole fitness side, I was kind of a chunky little kid, but I had the discipline and the structure to get stuff done and do it to a high level academically.
Mm.
Second, third, fourth grade. I mean, I was a
Yeah,
goal
good
achieving
student.
for good student
Right.
kind of results. And then when it came in the physical sense, it was a refresh, kind of like you said, it was a reinvigorating because as you're working to help other people achieve their goals the way I was, you lose sometimes a little bit of yourself. You gain weight. You work late hours. You wake up early. You eat fast food. The things that are easy and fast and cheap become normal.
Yeah.
The things that are effort and discipline and standards get put by the wayside. And then you wake up 30 pounds later, you're like, what happened to me?
Mm.
So that moment for me was when I was 36, and I don't know, it was like the good student in me was like, oh my God, my cholesterol's high. Like, what am I going to do? And then that started the whole
That kicked
journey
it all
at
off.
36 again, because I was in fitness since I was 19.
Right.
But when from 19 to then, teaching a lot, doing triathlons, doing jujitsu, all these things, I didn't look the part because the other half with the nutrition diligence and the mindset
fell to
to
the
set the
wayside.
standard. Yeah, it wasn't there.
So you mentioned something interesting there, and I think a lot of people in this space and in general, like kind of do as I say, not as I do. You know, what do you think that's like? What is that? Like, why is it that, you know, you're able to coach these people to that high level, but it was almost easy for you to not execute on it? Was it just a time thing? Was it just so much focus into others that you weren't focusing on yourself? What do you think that was about?
So I think part of what I'm going to say is going to ruffle some feathers.
Please.
Because
please.
I had this vendetta against the fat strength coach syndrome. Like, you all chase titles, you all have your clipboard, you all have your whistle, and you stand there grunting in the corner making kids do stuff. Yeah, it's okay for you to eat cheesesteaks and go booze it up on the weekends and not be the example. And people noticed when I flipped the script, because at some point, I was never really like a drinker, but like the food thing was my vice.
Yeah.
And I think when you get into the fat strength coach syndrome, where you have the clipboard and you have the title and you have the power, and that these kids are at your mercy, now it's a little different with NIL.
Right.
They could say F off and transfer and make hundreds of thousands because they're able to sell their name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
Back when I was in college sports, it wasn't like that, but
right.
you had power. Who's going to step to you if you're just big burly dude?
Yeah.
But like gaining respect by holding yourself to that standard, it opened up a whole nother level where when I was Gatorade one time paid me to speak at a conference, and
Nice.
I was with the NSCA presenting like my programming as like the key speaker for that specific basketball topic, because we were winning.
Yeah.
People love you when you win. But when I showed up physically and looked like the part,
Yeah.
the response was different.
Sure.
So I think your original question was like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
In college sports, and from my experience and other people that I've seen, it is the thankless job where you're supposed to be accepting the salary that the administration tells you you're worth. You're supposed to be very grateful for that, because a million other people will do your job for far less. And if you don't know somebody or not part of the good old boys club, maybe you don't even get a shot at all. And I think people kind of hated me because all of my work was done prior. I got a director position at 36. And that's because the person who brought me in, because that's the way it works.
Yeah.
He knew me since I was 19. He trusted me, and we worked well together. And we knew that off the bat, we would get the job done and we would be the perfect team.
Right.
So nobody else had a chance at that job. So I think it's one of those things, kind of like who you know and the opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas so many other people, they go through this route where, oh, I have to do internships, and then I have to work for $20,000 a year, and then I have to do this, and I have to earn my way, and they get resentful. And it's like, there's not enough jobs for you.
Right.
Quantity of you.
Yeah.
And I think people with online coaching now being so much more popular, people go that route. A lot of the people that I was in the Big Ten with that were coaches all have gone different places.
And moved on.
Yeah, one of them went to a platform that is growing online. And again, that's still, there's leverage there. You only make a certain percentage of what they bring in as opposed to going out on your own.
Yeah.
But the people who went out on their own really built a strong history in their lane.
Right.
Maybe they were known for something that they just studied. And then now they're an overnight success online after 25 years.
Yeah. Overnight. So let's talk about elite performance, because I have this, very big interest in that as a topic, as a aspiration, so speaking to you, I'm curious, how do you define that? Like, let's start with that. Like, what is elite performance, both in sports and then and even in business? Like, what does that mean to you?
There's so many parallels, and I used to talk about this all the time when I was putting out podcast episodes, when I was putting out content, that there's such a parallel between the discipline required for business and fitness,
Oh, yeah.
elite performance. That elite performance to me is following through on the things that you're supposed to do, that you said you're going to do, regardless of your mood, with weathering the storms, because business, revenue, whatever goes up and down.
Yeah.
Every day in the gym's not always going to be a PR.
Yeah.
So it's staying focused and disciplined rather than being motivated, because motivation is mood. Discipline is a standard. And so someone who runs a business at a high level, or whatever, they want to pursue degrees or whatever they're doing on the professional side of things, it's the same as the fitness side. And I had someone say to me, if you take that discipline that got you supersonic fit, in the fitness world, to business, like, you can't lose.
Right. Yeah.
Here's the difficult part where I empathize with people. It's simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. So I'm still learning things, whether I want to expand my online coaching more, or whether I want to expand what I do in person more, or whether I want to create something brand new, or I'm still learning and trying to accept that process as something that I want to do in full transparency.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas in fitness, I try to tell people, like, if you want to get muscles and you want to be toned or whatever they say, like, there's a process. You can't do Zumba or box 5-6 days a week and expect to look like me. You can't do Pilates 5 days a week and think you're going to look like me.
Right.
So when I walk in to teach my Pilates class, people know full well, and they all ask me, did you get that body from Pilates? No. This is a lot of protein, a lot of heavy lifting, and a lot of, like, focus on that.
Right.
While Pilates, for me, keeps me going because it helps the internal structure and the balance and the flexibility and the mobility.
Right.
So they're all important. I just tell people, you need to focus on the needle movers for what you truly want.
Yeah.
And then I'll just be like, listen, the easiest way to say it is, like, if you want to play football, you can't show up with hockey skates. You're not going to move on the field like that. So why do you keep bringing me things like Zumba, which basically is cardio, and think you're going to get muscles?
Yeah.
And it's not to crap on that.
Sure. It's what you're going for.
It's what you're going for.
Yeah.
So if your goal is socialization, movement, getting your heart rate up, having a good time, that is perfect for you.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at bikini competitors and wondering why you don't look like that,
right,
you're not doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the harsh reality. So you could say the same thing to me. Oh, well, you want a private jet? What do people with private jets and billions of dollars do? Get working.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think is the kind of number, if you could, like, narrow it down to one or a couple of things, like, what is it really that you found holds people back from achieving that level? Is it just like a discipline thing?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
In my experience
Explore
with
that.
clients, I've had people who cannot let go of the past. It's like going into a relationship with a new person, remembering all the other breakups that made you hurt. Unless you clear that out, you're going to move forward with that bias.
Right.
And what that does, it makes you fearful to do something different. So if you've never gone to the gym before, or maybe you had the wrong trainer who hurt you in some way. Maybe they were negligent. Maybe they weren't good. Or maybe your body wasn't ready for what they asked you to do. You're always going to have that fear and think you can't do it. Side note, it's self-image. If you've always been called fat by somebody, your father, your friends, back in school, I've had clients that always see themselves as the fat girl, even when their body's changing because of the scale. I had a client, the scale still said 180 for her, but she's hip thrusting tons of weight and her body's changing, and, like, she's eating better and she's strong and she's happy and she feels fulfilled in the gym. But the second she stepped on the scale, she went and binged on peanut butter because she saw the number that said fat girl, but she didn't accept that her body was changing. And so that's just your relative weight with gravity. It doesn't tell you what it's comprised of. Fat, muscle, poop, you know, carbohydrates, holding water, salt, like, it doesn't, stress, cortisol, like, it doesn't tell you anything. So the number on the scale held her back more than the work and the effort that she put in, which should, in my opinion, because it's what's worked for me, build the confidence because of achievement. You're achieving so much more than you did with 10-pound weights doing burpees in your basement. Now you're achieving so much more, but you can't give yourself that. Yeah. So and I believe that also leads into self-love. This is like a long answer because I could do a dissertation on this, but if you don't love yourself and you don't love what you're doing, you're gonna, this is again why I called it the lifestyle standard is my program. you're going to fall to whatever gimmick everybody else is going to sell you. So you start dating a new guy and he wants to, he's insecure and he doesn't want you to look too good. Oh, well, okay, here, let's go eat pizza. Let's go drink this. The person who loves you should support your goal, not pull you back.
Yeah.
If you're not working at 85 to 95% of, accuracy and compliance in what your plan is, then you shouldn't be derailed. That can't be every day of the week.
Right. So,
but there's nothing wrong with a cheat meal for a date night.
Of course.
It's also those interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
When somebody really wants you to succeed and they're secure, they're not going to hold you back.
Right.
So there's social, there's self-love, there's old programming and patterns, there's fear of change. There's so many things that hold people back. That the best client for me is the person who's like, I believe in myself. This is my identity. I just know I need you to unlock that piece.
Mm.
I'm not for the person who I got to convince to get off the couch. Man, like maybe you should walk to the mailbox. No, but I'm definitely for the person who's like, yo, I see this.
Right.
I just need to feel it.
Yeah.
And then once I see it and feel it and it's happening, it's over for you people.
Yeah.
Because they see themselves as the standard.
Right.
And I've actually had clients say to me, wow, I was in the gym. I saw myself in the mirror and I saw this girl that I used to admire 6 months ago, her body. She's like, I look like that now. And so now it's like, wow, like the new identity.
Shift. Yeah.
Like you are that. So now what's next? Because it never ends.
Right.
You're going to refine something. It may not be weight loss. It may not be getting lean. Maybe it's how you perform in the gym. Maybe it's how you translate this into your personal relationships and that confidence, how you show up in the dating world, how you show up to pitch clients or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, how can we take this platform of achievement and self-confidence and lifestyle-wise, make that enhance the other parts of your life?
Yeah. And you mentioned something there and I want your thoughts on it. There's also, I've heard, and I feel like I've experienced it to some extent as well. There's that fear of letting go, fear of that. What do you think about, like, in some cases that manifesting even as like that fear of being successful, like of it actually working out? Maybe it's not a fear, but it's like this thing of like, it wouldn't work out that way. It's kind of like a self-defeating, I guess. What do you think of that? Do you run into that sometimes? And how do you usually like work around that where it's like, no, it can work. It can work.
It takes a very special person to see it before they can feel it. It's like that faith thing, you believe in something you've never seen.
Right. Yeah.
And it's understandable that people won't believe it if they've been programmed to feel like it'll never happen. Myself, I actually experienced that this year. Wild. I'll go into that in a second. But I think for other people, in my experience, oh boy, it's like getting somebody to truly tap into like, who do you really feel like you are inside? Because maybe externally it's not there, but the external visual or the results, whether it's pounds on the scale, whether it's what it looks like, whether it's how clothes fit, whether it's what's in your bank account, whether it's how many clients you get, like whatever it is, the result is a result or an accumulation of habits. The habits are set by your standard. Your standard is set by your mindset. So we got to start with how you see yourself and truly believe it. But how do you truly believe it if you've never seen it? It's faith.
Right.
You have, like, what's the worst that happens? You try and then you fail, and failure is data. Data is neutral. I tell this to clients all the time. Get out of your feelings. Data is neutral. The scale is neutral.
Oh, man, yeah.
Like, let's be scientists here, because if you want to sit there in your emotions, you will never move, because your brain, your family, everybody with emotions is trying to keep you safe, and you're trying to do something radically different. So if you fail, and what's failure in dieting? Oh, well, I had a couple too many drinks. Okay, how did that make you feel? Well, I didn't like it. Well, did you want to drink that many? No. Okay, so how are we going to say the next time it's okay to have 2?
Sure.
But 8? Let me ask you, why did you have 8?
Yeah.
You told me you didn't want to drink. Oh, well, social anxiety. Okay, that's the issue.
Right.
So are you with people you feel safe with? Are you with people that like you? Are you with people that you like? Because you could stop drinking at 2 and no one's going to give a shit.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah. But you went to 8 because you have an anxiety around what they are going to think.
Right. So there's an ownership issue there too, where it's
extreme
like
ownership,
kind of like pushing it to other people, but it's really
extreme.
kind of on you. Yeah.
Because I remember going to bars, drinking water, and if it was a restaurant, I'd order cucumbers. So that was the only thing I could eat because I had eaten my meals for the day.
Right.
And
That's discipline.
nobody cared.
Yeah.
Because they're like, guess why? Because the proof is in the pudding. I'm doing the thing.
Right.
The delicate spot is when you start doing the thing and you don't see it yet. You're supposed to have faith. And people are like, why are you eating cucumbers? You're still fat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you stick through the hard times because you believe and you get to, okay, proof is in the pudding. That's why I'm doing this.
Right.
You see this?
It gets easier. Yeah.
It gets easier.
Yeah.
It's a very delicate time where people need to just trust and believe and do blindly because you won't get to the result if you keep letting that fear of, well, what am I going to do this for? Like, I don't look the part. Well, you won't ever look the part if you don't do it.
Yeah.
So it's it's a hamster wheel,
right.
but it's a valuable lesson because all of that stuff is data.
Right. And we'll get to failure, and I love your take on it already, but we'll dive deeper into that. But I wanted to kind of jump into your clients, and I found it really interesting. I was doing some research on you and just going through kind of what you do, and working with these high net worth individuals, business owners. I found it interesting because kind of at that high level, even with the athletes at those high levels, are the changes and the optimizations very drastic, or are they more subtle changes that just compound into very big results? Like, how does that kind of play out on both ends, I suppose? Like, how have you seen that work?
What's really interesting about these people that I'm working with now that are older, sometimes, and I say older, I mean like in their 50s and up.
Sure.
Who have established almost billions of dollars of net worth, right? When you have someone like that who maybe neglected their fitness, now it's like the longevity thing. Like, I want to be able to enjoy my 70s.
I see.
So a lot of them tell me, I don't want abs. I'm like, no, I know you don't. I'm telling you, it's torture to get them.
Yeah.
Like, it's a diet thing.
Yeah, right.
So you don't need that. Just because I do it, you don't need to do it. I'm psycho.
Right. Yeah.
I'll sacrifice whatever I need to do to get it because, I'm placing top 5 on IFBB Pro stages. Like, I have a new goal.
Right.
And I didn't have the new goal until I showed myself that I could do it, which was part of my experience with the whole belief thing.
Right.
And maybe we'll dive into that later. But a lot of them, because for me, the testimonials are not this like, oh, I was 300 pounds and Christina got me to 120. I'm not getting those people. And there's no disrespect to the basic trainer who just focuses on the physical fat loss transformation because that has a place. I'm so much more well-versed in fixing injuries and making sure, like my client that I was telling you about, can get off the toilet.
Yeah.
Because if he can get off the toilet, he can hang with his buddies. He can get on his private jet. He can make business happen. And he has an outlet.
So it's almost like the end result isn't so much the physique, like you're saying. It's more like what it allows. It opens up other avenues for them that, in that extreme kind of case where it's like no mobility and just not really quality of life. Like, it's a more general, right? Yeah.
They don't want the abs.
Right.
They don't want to lose weight because, like this person I have in mind, he's got people in the kitchen that make high quality stuff. He cooks for himself. He loves that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If he does drink, he has a glass of water with every drink. He stays on top of his health with top doctors in Miami. So he's not the person who's just like this sloppy whatever. But if you have a back problem and I'm the person that keeps you going, that testimonial is like, damn, she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
I've been working with her for X amount of years and blah, blah, blah. And so those are like the Google reviews I started asking for. I was like, hey, let me just see what and they gladly fill it out because you touch somebody at a different level when you keep them moving.
Right.
But for online coach marketing purposes, nobody cares about what I do because it's so niche like that. It's hard to advertise that unless you're looking for that. Everybody wants to see the fat to fit. They want to see the drastic. They want to see the extreme. But with that extreme transformation comes an ideal client who wants to do the work.
Yeah.
And in my experience, those people who think they want that, they fail time and time again. And then instead of being the data-driven person to find out why, they quit.
Right.
And so there's the mental separator.
Yeah.
So if you're running a business, I don't know. I don't know the history of Starbucks, but all I know is that for the first X amount of years, he made no money. So if he quit when Starbucks wasn't the standard out there for like being in every city and like 4 on each block.
Yeah.
If he quit, we wouldn't have Starbucks. So it's like, when I think of it that way, I'm like, well, that's what applies to business.
Right.
You have to, and I thought about this. If I ever took a left turn and had a different venture, I know to go all in, I have to be 3,000% into that. It has to be my baby. I have to protect it, and I have to go all in even when the results aren't showing.
A lot of people don't have that patience.
They don't have that, but somehow business owners like Starbucks, like Amazon in their little garage with their little books. Now it's a big conglomerate of serving everybody in same day delivery, you know, like
and
how did we get here? I remember when you were just selling books.
Right. And it even goes to what you were saying earlier about the seeing it before. You have to imagine that the Bezos and was it Schultz? I don't know if Schultz for Starbucks. I think so. They all had to, maybe not to the level that it got to, but there was a vision for something more, something kind of like all encompassing, like that they've taken over. Like they're all global brands. So I think you're on something there for sure.
But trust me, like there's a lot of businesses that fail, like people just give up.
Right.
And then there's some decision making, like you have to know when to cut bait, right?
Right. Yeah.
If it's not working, sometimes you need to make a fast decision and pivot.
Right.
But I'm always intrigued by the people like the Amazons and the companies that like got through the rough spots. The same way people are intrigued about me, how I got here.
Right.
Because I get that question all the time and I'm like, well, damn, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I just didn't quit.
I just didn't quit. But physical fitness, there's so much emotion behind it. And when you're mentally strong, I'm not saying like you have to be David Goggins and run marathons on broken feet.
That guy's so
like,
crazy,
that's a different level.
Yeah.
But I had a client ask me about him. Like, oh, I really want to understand discipline. I'm like, listen, discipline is you doing what you just told me you were going to do this week and finishing it and building the confidence from there. Discipline isn't like asking me, oh, well, how is a muscle actually built? Because guess what? I even said once to people, I was like, I flip on the light switch and I turn on my car every day. I'm not calling Mercedes to find out how the button on my car works to light the ignition up. And I'm not calling Benjamin Franklin and saying, oh, how did you discover, like, flip the switch? You know, like you just have to flip the switch.
Right.
You just have to push the button and drive.
Right.
And a lot of people want to know the how. And I'm the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too, honestly.
In business, I'm the same way.
Very much. Very much.
But in the weird meathead side of me, I'm like, well, in fitness, you just did it.
Yeah. Just go for it.
And I think for me, I grew up in a blue collar household where I worked with my dad worked with his hands and I got used to that. Like I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. So the physical, like I'm not a dumb jock, but I could be, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just easy for me to do that. The pain is fun because it's not pain.
Yeah.
It's discomfort, but it's a challenge.
Right.
To translate that to discomfort in business has been a translation for me that I'm trying to like, you know, to take it to the next level, I mean, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But let's talk about mindset because this conversation so far has just exuded mindset. And I think it's like you're saying, it's the foundation and it really sets the tone. So you talked a little bit about the discipline versus motivation. Do you think that discipline is, no pun intended, like a muscle that you use it or lose it? You kind of got to build it. Like, how do you separate the discipline versus motivation, and how does that look like with your clients?
Patience, grit, emotional control. Because if you have those things, discipline, I believe, gets easier. If the discipline to do the tasks, home cooking 90% of the time or whatever it is, or, you know, portioning out your food or going for your walks or lifting a little heavier every week or whatever it is, it needs to become second nature. Like if you didn't brush your teeth, you'd lose them. Yeah. Eventually it would catch up with you.
Yeah, right.
You could get away with it for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe you can go camping for a month and like, you know, your teeth won't fall out.
Right.
But eventually it'll catch up to you.
Yeah.
Same thing with those little habits. But the motivation piece is just when people feel good. And I have some clients that are so headstrong and they're so motivated. And these are the fun ones because then I get to talk sense in them and be like, listen, I get it. Like you're sick and you don't want to take off, but let's listen to your body because we've been going straight since this is the progress we've made. When your body tells you you need a couple days off, totally acceptable. That's the difference between losing motivation because you just don't want to do it.
Right.
And listen,
You need
wrong.
a break.
I need
yeah.
a break.
Yeah.
And being okay, because I've had some real high achievers that I've had to pull off the ledge and be like, no, you cannot train today.
Yeah.
Like you would be better served with a massage.
Right.
Which is why like it's so great that I could take the multidiscipline of my background and kind of guide people toward like, do that.
Yeah.
Whether it's me that does the massage or you go somewhere or you go in the sauna or whatever it is,
Right.
take that time off.
Yeah. You hit on something there, and I think it's really important. What are some motivation or discipline like misconceptions or myths, like you're saying, like in cases push through it, like that's pretty harmful? What are some others that are like just way off base and not really accurate, would you say?
In terms of like what people think discipline should look like?
Exactly.
So there are some people that are like, no days off, no days off. You can't
It's not sustainable.
PR every single day.
Right.
However, no days off applies to you're doing something every day to move yourself forward, but it may not be the same thing. So programming in your recovery, which is what these high performers do,
Right.
programming in your mobility or whatever it is, that's the antidote. It's like,
Right.
it's the scale.
Yeah.
It's how you achieve balance. That is no days off.
Mm-hmm.
No days off mentality only goes awry when people just think they have to PR every single day, because that's not the way it works.
Right. In fact, that's how you get injured.
Exactly.
So it's
But knowing that a well-rounded approach includes the stuff that makes you recover to do it again the next day, it's not a step back. It's not being a mental midget. It's not being a weakling. It's strategically placed. So no days off means, yeah, no, you're doing your recovery because that's part of the plan.
right.
And when people start to see it as part of the plan, they don't fall into the pitfalls or misconception of what discipline is. Discipline isn't, sorry for him, but it's not David Goggins. You have to run miles and miles every day on broken feet, blistered, and like, with a cold and your colon falling out.
Yeah.
Like that's like that's not discipline.
Yeah.
He's a different level. What drives him up here is something completely different that, quite frankly, most people don't have.
Right.
Even 1% of that mentality to do it.
Right.
So that's a great motivator. It's cool for like, sound bites,
Yeah.
but it's not realistic.
Yeah. For most people.
Yeah. It's like when people look at me and they're like, oh, well, you don't want to get too big. Listen, this doesn't happen by accident.
Right. Right.
It's been 25 years of intentionally
very
doing
methodical.
something and 10 years of intentionally doing something specific to bodybuilding. Like
Right.
you're not going to lift a weight and be bulky unless you just get fat on top of the muscle building.
Right. Yeah.
And you're not going to build muscle that fast. So it's realistic expectations too.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than thinking like, if I'm disciplined, I have to like be well, let's put it this way. For the elite performer in business and in fitness, there is that isolation because no one's going to understand you. You're doing what 1 to 2% of people might consider.
Right.
And then to do it at a high level, being 1% of the 1%, which is my goal now.
Yeah.
Like if I make it to the Olympia ever, I'm 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Right.
I don't have the expectation, but in my mind, I have the belief, which I didn't have before. I didn't start out saying I wanted to do that, but tasting last year and my results, I'm like, wow, that's exactly what I'm talking about with my clients. I tasted the result. Now I see the next level that's possible. But I had to take a risk. And 3 times mentally, I had to get over the fear of, I don't belong here. This is not me. The girls are better than me.
Like imposter syndrome, kind of.
People have that.
Yeah, I do. I think everyone does to a certain extent. And that's kind of a thing. As I have gone through business and found some success and trying to achieve more, it's almost always before a breakthrough where that doubt creeps in the most, is what I've found, is where it's almost like I know what I've done to get here, but I still feel this thing of like, I don't really deserve this. And I try and fight that, but it's like really hard to block out completely sometimes.
But if you tasted a little bit of success and it unlocked one mental door, like you'd be like, oh my God, like I can see it. And now I can go for it.
Right.
But it took me almost 10 years in bodybuilding. Last October is when I experienced it mentally. I was like, oh my God.
It's like a light bulb.
Yeah, totally. And then that light bulb moment gave me self-belief, and the self-belief gave me calm, and then I executed without worry. The years that I was trying too hard, I worried, I got myself sick, I did too much. Like, I see that in people's fitness journey. And I'm very intrigued, again, like by the business side, because it's like, the Starbucks of the world, they didn't quit, but also they had to pace how they were working to make progress.
Oh yeah. Wasn't
Because,
overnight.
like when I forced it, it wasn't working. So it's like there's so much emphasis on how can you lose weight faster? How can you scale faster? There's business coaches that want you to scale faster. There's fitness coaches that you can tell you can do this in 6 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, but like, can I be like the asterisk, the voice of reason? Like you
Right.
can, but it ain't going to be lasting long. It's going to be
Mhm.
really intense and you might burn out.
Right.
So how about we do this the right way?
Yeah. Right.
And you know, there's a book I very rarely get through books. Like I'm kind of ADD when it comes to books.
Okay.
But then when I latch onto a book, I will listen to the same one or read the same one 5-6 times. And to the point of like the Starbucks and the Amazons of the world, there's a girl, Sophia Amoruso. She wrote a book called Girl Boss. And it was her start of how she was just like, she says this in the book, how she was just kind of like, you know, like a loser, dumpster diving, never really could hold a job kind of thing. And this is when eBay started years ago. She started dumpster diving for vintage.
Oh my God.
And puts it on
Nice.
eBay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
yeah.
she learned how to optimize eBay. And now she has, I don't even know how many billions of dollars in a website
just off
called,
of that. Oh,
well, it developed into
Right,
a
okay.
website called Nasty Gal.
got it.
And now it's not just, vintage from like different places in LA, but like, or dumpsters or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like curated clothing and
Wow.
accessories.
It's like thrift on like online thrift.
But if she would have listened to people who fired her, if she would have listened to people who said like, what are you doing this for? But I don't know if she sat there and thought, oh, I'm going to be a multi-billionaire
right.
if I just like put my trust in eBay, because not everybody on eBay makes it.
Right.
And there's a process to that. So when I listen to that book, I listen to it like 5 or 6 times. And there are other books I get like one chapter and I'm like, oh, hey, that was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna have to force it.
Yeah.
But this one was so intriguing because it was the same thing that we're talking about. But I don't
Right.
know if you start off being like, I'm going to be the next Kobe or I'm going to be the next billionaire, or if you just follow like, I didn't start off saying I want to go to the Olympia or I want to be 6% body fat. I just wanted to do this one thing that one time. And then I loved it.
And then that
And I
kind
think
of-
you fall in love with your business the same way you fall in love with your fitness.
right. That's interesting.
So I find there's so many parallels, but I
Yeah.
find people who do it far superior than I ever think I could at this point in
Right.
time on the business side. So interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Coming up to the end here, and I want to definitely circle back because the way you put it was just so perfect. So talking about failure, I have kind of there's a saying you don't really ever fail or you don't lose. It's just you win or you learn. You know, part of me is like that's kind of a platitude because failure exists. But I'm curious, from what you said and just general experience, like how do you perceive failure? How do you work through it? How do you work through it with your clients? Like what do you think failure really is?
To quote an old boss of mine, you just got to be strong in this world. And I think failure is data. When you have somebody who's very like neutral, data driven, like one of my friends just signed up as a client and I know how she thinks. Very data driven, very professional, but she's also an emotional eater. So she's got both. If you look at failure as an opportunity to just take it on the chin and move forward, feel the emotion, but take the data. I feel like that's such a really great way to handle that because for a lot of people, failure becomes only emotional and then they do things that derail the progress
Yeah.
further.
Yeah.
But now, like when I fail, I'm focusing on such little details that failure to me is something that, most people will be like new to them. So it's like little things that I'm focusing on, the 1% things. Whereas in the beginning, you could fail greatly because it's like, oh, I just didn't go to the gym for 3 weeks. Okay. Well, for me, failure might be, oh, I had a little bit extra fruit. At those elite levels, the details matter.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that because like sometimes I want to believe calories don't exist, but they do after all these years. So I think there is an emotional and there's a very logical, practical side to failure. And to know yourself, one of my other best friends used to tell me, the best thing you could be is smart and self-aware. And I've kept that and I've taken it for so many years. If you're smart and you're self-aware, it gives you a platform to really figure out who and what you are. And then for me as a coach, for example, when I go through like these emotional sort of intake forms to really get to know people, it helps me to understand like who they are and what moves the needle. Because if I get someone who's like a former Marine or something, they're headstrong and they do hard things. But if I get somebody who dives into psychology and emotions, and I'm like, okay,
It's
this
a
is
different
buckle up. It's a
personality.
totally
Yeah.
different thing.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, you know, I've
Buckle
pushed
up.
back a lot on like group coaching and cookie cutter stuff, because I've recognized that working one-on-one with somebody builds the relationship and the effectiveness.
Right.
There's only so many courses and PDF files and things that you could download, but I've done those too personally, because I knew that when I was successful with that, I was just ready to execute.
Mm.
But when I wanted to take it to the next level, I needed more guidance, because I had, like you talked about before, the faith. I'd never been there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like.
Right.
So failure at a lower level could be maybe more emotional, whereas now I've had reps at managing that and managing the emotions. And one of my goals the last 2 years was emotional regulation, emotional control, thinking logically. So I even made that switch.
And it's
over the
something you
last-
work on. You kind of
Yeah.
refine it.
Because I could speak to all this because I think I've been at all places of the spectrum, to
Yeah.
not like, you know, it's not to like bash the people who are emotional, because that was me at one point,
Mhm.
but to say like, I get you.
Right.
Like I've been in your shoes, but now if I get somebody off the jump that's like me now and my mentality now, I'm living that, and I'm like, okay, like we're aligned,
Right.
but I have to remember where I was when I get someone who's
Yeah.
like newer.
Right. Right. You're further along.
And so
than-
I could speak
yeah.
to the emotional failure piece and the logical failure piece, and using it as data, because this person might be disappointed, but you're like, no, let's just fix this. Where did it go wrong?
Mhm.
And that's like your higher level problem. Where here it's like, okay, no, it's okay.
Ruminating on it.
Yeah,
and
and it takes a lot longer for that like beginner level person
Right.
to really accept that, like, this is part of the learning phase. Like I'm
Yeah.
telling you, if you don't quit now, 3 years from now, it's going to make sense.
Yeah. It's almost like something you want to, it's going to sound crazy, but like welcoming the failure, because you're saying it's part of it, and it's almost like unavoidable. So like you almost want to fail early.
And like for you, for example, like if you were to apply that to yourself, because I know like we all have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, how do you interpret welcoming failure? Because it's hard.
Mm,
It's hard to be that person.
yeah.
To be like, oh, let me just, because after a while, I'll tell you what, it gets exhausting, even for the high performer, to just fail and fail and fail and take data and then try to pivot and do something
Yeah.
different and then feel like it's not working. And like on the physical side, maybe I need to pull in more blood work. Maybe I need to examine the rest of their life. And it's not just the physical. It's not just calories.
Right.
Like that's the way I have to think multifaceted. But like for you, have you experienced that like on your side of things? Like the whole, like whether it's emotional or data driven, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely for me, it's I can ruminate. I can, like a steam cooker.
Me too.
Like
And
a
I'm laughing
steam
because
cooker,
I'm like,
man.
oh man.
Like, yeah.
But you know what I find, and maybe you find this too, like if I overthink, it's because it's something I don't have experience with. It's something I don't have reps with.
Yeah, I would say overthink is another one that I just, yeah, it's definitely something that I'll catch myself doing, know that it's not productive or very helpful to a certain point. You know, there's certain things that it's good to be analytical, but as an overthinker, it's like, it's hard to, I'm really good at recognizing it, but I'm not so good at kind of turning it off and repivoting. You know, that's something I'm definitely working on as I go
Yeah.
through this.
I think that's the thing that, man, I had to make an active choice to do that. It was really uncomfortable. And then I also had to trust somebody, like as a coach or a mentor, like I had to trust.
Hmm.
And sadly, and this is where I get like really empathetic to people in the marketplace, because like you're inundated with ads, you're inundated with social media coaches, you're inundated with inbound DMs, like trying to get you to buy their crap. And this is why, like, for me to scale online, I hated that process.
Yeah.
I don't want to inbound random blind cold DM people. Like I don't want to.
Right.
But someone who's like, oh, well, I've made, $87 million doing this. It works. Okay, fine. But like, it's not how I want to be treated.
Right.
And so you're inundated with all of these things that who do you trust? So it's up to us creators to show who we really are.
Right.
And it's up to the consumers to really ask hard questions.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like you're getting inundated. Like,
Yeah. Truly.
how do you find someone that you trust that can ease your fears
Right.
to execute?
Yeah.
Because I've actually, and I'm just calling it as it is, I've had people who've hired other people, but then asked me my opinion. I'm like, you're not paying me? Like you hired that person. You hired that person.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
maybe you should ask them that question. Because if you're identifying me as the smarter one, you
Right.
paid the wrong person.
Yeah, literally. That's great.
Where, like, and then for me to answer those things, I personally feel professionally it's disrespectful. If I'm not going to undermine
Sure.
what that person's doing, because I wouldn't want that to happen to my client.
Right.
So there's like this like respect thing.
Yeah.
But because you're constantly inundated with information, you have to lock into something that you trust. Just do that.
Mm.
The second you start, like when clients would start sending me all these forwards from other coaches, and he's like, oh, here we go.
Too much input.
I have patience.
Yeah, too much input.
But then when they get results, they stop doing that.
Right.
Because they realize
Now
what
they
we're doing is
trust
working.
for real. Yeah.
So it's natural to be curious.
Yeah.
But you're only curious because you didn't trust your choice.
Right. Damn.
It's crazy, right?
No, that's super crazy. I feel like we could go a whole nother hour,
I know.
honestly, but I want to open it up to you to kind of share a message, final message, and how people can find you online. So it'll be this camera and it's all yours.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you guys for welcoming me and having your hour be spent with us as you watch. You could find me on all social platforms at Christina Specos. And if you like some of the stuff that we talked about, I have lots of like singular podcast riffs on YouTube under Spec Talk Podcast, SPECTALK. And you could always feel free to DM me or email me at christina@christinaspecos.com. If you have any questions or you want me to dive in a little bit more specifically on some of these topics, my email is always open.
I love
talking to people.
I love it. Christina, thank you so much for making time to be here.
Of course,
I
I
thoroughly
appreciate it.
enjoyed this conversation. So we'll hopefully
Definitely
catch
next level what you're doing.
Yeah.
We talked about some high level
you. Yeah,
stuff.
we'll try and catch you on another time. All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. See you next time.